Rise and Shine Rwanda, it's Thursday the 19th of February.
Coming up on today's Rise and Shine Rwanda.
The results are in. Did the 2014 economy rating surpass projections?
League debutants put up a fight, but were they good enough to hold off the champions?
And grab your popcorn because Alan has a cinematic scoop in this week's movie review.
Good morning, it's just after 7 o'clock in the morning and you're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Regis Isheja.
And me, Makeda Mahario. Over the next hour, we'll be bringing you all the latest news, sports, and lifestyle headlines from here in Rwanda and around the world. And of course, the Rise and Shine team are here with us in studio. What's going on in the world of business?
Well, in business, I have a lot of business news for you. Really good stuff. Something new for the youth they should look up for. I'll let you know in the business news.
Okay, and Arnold, what do we have in sports?
Cricket, basketball, and the latest from the Ferrafa coaching situation.
Okay, so you know what? I'm actually starting to become interested in this thing. You're doing your job well. I'm telling you. All right, and Alan?
Well, with me, it's Thursday, so movie reviews. I've got all the latest movies to check out over the weekend.
And that tie is doing it.
Thank you.
All right, all that and more still to come, but first, Rise and Shine story of the day.
With the world economy having experienced a mild inflation in 2014 after a disastrous 2013, the Rwandan economy equally recovered according to figures released by the National Bank of Rwanda earlier this week. Take a look.
Rwanda's GDP of 2014 is set to surpass the initial targets of 6% according to the governor of the National Bank of Rwanda, John Rangombwa. With the economy having grown by 7.5, 6.1 and 7.8% in the first 3 quarters of the year respectively, the resounding growth was expected to enable it bounce back from the 4.8% growth it experienced in 2013. Growth is believed to have been fueled by good performance in the service sector that grew by 10%, agriculture by 6%, and the industry sector by 4%, with the growth in the latter having been enabled by an accommodative monetary policy implemented by the central bank. With the country's international credit on the rise, local creditors increased by 38.2% to Rwandan francs 652.9 billion from a 5.3% decline posted in 2013 when banks lent out 472.5 billion Rwandan francs to the private sector. There was a continued cause for worry as the balance of trade position continued to increase as goods imported into the country heavily outweighed those exported from Rwanda. Imports from the East African Community members stood at a staggering $546.8 million, with exports standing at only $131.6 million, despite that being a 7% increase. With the energy and mining sectors being looked at as key economic drivers this fiscal year, one is left to believe that Rwanda will achieve its target of growing by an 11% average by 2020. Arnold Kwizera, Rise and Shine Rwanda.
And joining us now in studio is, of course, our very own Arnold Kwizera. So tell us, what does this mean, these changes? What does it mean for the average Joe?
I think it's very okay for the average Rwandan in ways of when you look at the positives, when you look at how much they'll be able to get from the banks in this coming year, starting most likely in June in the new fiscal year 2015. How much money we will be able to borrow from the banks, being that our credit rating went up and banks are willing to give out more money to the average Rwandan. But where it's also worrying for the average Rwandan is most loans which were rejected came from sectors that directly impact them, and that was the agriculture and mining sectors that everyone looks at as the sectors that are supposed to create jobs for the average Rwandan come for us to achieve the unemployment rate and cut it down by the figures given by the National Bank come 2017. Where you come to the agriculture sector is loans of up to 64% of people who requested for loans in the agriculture sector were rejected. But this is most likely to change, especially with the new policy that's going to be implemented by BDF, Ministry of Youth and ICT, and the Ministry of Agriculture. They're working on a policy that is sent to allow youth and women get credit rating at lower levels and give them better security, and the security can go up to 90%, according to a conversation I had with the Minister of Agriculture, Tony. Another worrying bit is the balance of trade position. Now, when you look at the numbers this year in the balance of trade position, it was at 136 million, which went out, which of exports that went out of Rwanda, and that's mainly with the Democratic Republic of Congo, which is our biggest export route. That was an increase of about 7%. But what is very worrying about it is that we brought in goods worth $530+ million. Now, when you look at the balance of trade position there, it's more than 300%, meaning we need to work on the goods we send out of the country if the franc is to go up. Now, if you notice, towards the end of last year, the franc participated so badly against the US dollar, whereby the US dollar went up to about 750 Rwandan francs for every dollar. Now that comes out of the balance of trade position. And the National Bank has tried by using a lot of deposits, putting a lot of deposits out there in the monetary circles to try and curb the dollar from rising. Because if the dollar goes up, all goods for the normal Rwandan will go up, and they become impossible to purchase. And that will increase poverty levels, which you're trying to fight against.
Now, when it comes to recovering from the inflation, I mean, you mentioned the Democratic Republic of Congo, a fellow member of the CPGL bloc. But how are we doing? How do we fare? I know you're very knowledgeable when it comes to that. How do we fare? How are we faring compared to other EAC state members?
Rwanda has attributed the second highest growth of 2014 so far, according to results, because results of the fourth quarter are not yet released out. Those are going to be released later in around March by the Ministry of Finance and Economic Planning. Tanzania has already released its result, and it looks like Tanzania has the highest growth rate right now in the East African region, having grown last year by about 6.7%. This is mainly attributed to factors like its diamond dealing, and then the Arusha ICTR court being based there. A lot of dollars go into the Tanzanian economy, and that's why the Tanzanian economy grew by that. Kenya grew by about 4.5%, and Uganda grew by about 5.7%. Now, Rwanda, our expected targets at the beginning of the year were 6%, which was still high compared to the year before, where we grew by only 4.3%. Because of donor funds had been cut, but last year the donors were back into the country. Now, with growth being 7.8, 7.5, and 6.1% in the first three quarters, Rwanda's growth rate may go up to about 6.6, 6.7%, equally as good as Tanzania's, but I doubt we'll surpass Tanzania's growth rate of 2014.
A man of many talents.
Of course, as always, thank you very much.
Thank you, Makeda and Regis.
You are watching Rise and Shine Rwanda. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
It's the month of love. Buy tickets this February with Rwandair and stand a chance to get in a lucky draw for a romantic getaway in Mombasa. 3 lucky couples stand a chance to win an all-expense paid holiday for 3 days and 2 nights at the White Sands Beach Resort and Spa. Yes, we are connecting dreams.
Fly our dream to the heart of Africa.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Let's get to today's business headlines. Fidelis Karangwa has the details.
Business stories making headlines today. A new project aimed at attracting the youth into agribusiness has been launched in the country. The Farming in School Rwanda initiative is aimed at getting the youth to embrace agriculture as a business by equipping them with modern farming skills to help them secure funding in agribusiness ventures. The project is part of the Bazwan's larger Farming in School Africa initiative, which is in line with the government's policy that promotes private sector involvement in agriculture to help create more jobs and boost household income. Local accountants have been advised not to fear competition presented to them by their regional peers. Officials say skilled local accountants are not at any risk of losing out on work from regional professional accountants and urge them to observe a high level of standards and professionalism to beat the competition. So far, 2 Rwandan candidates completed the Certified Public Accountant Studies and 4 others qualified for the Certified Accountants Technicians out of over 400 who sat the exam at different levels. And the economy is expected to post a higher growth rate than earlier projected in 2014 figures, but commercial banks have come under pressure for lowering lending rates to sustain the momentum beyond 2015. This was highlighted during the Monetary Policy and Financial Stability Statement by the Central Bank, where it was mentioned that the government's growth rates projection is at 6%. However, based on the performance of the first 3 quarters of 2014, growth will surpass projections, setting a firm foundation for faster rates this year. You're up to date today's business headlines. Sports news coming up next in just a minute with Ono Kwizera.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Time now for your sports news. I'm Arnold Kwizera. Starting with football, according to the Federation of Rwanda Football Association, more than 50 coaches have applied for the Amavubi coaching role after it fell vacant, citing the resignation of Stephen Constantine early last month. With Rwanda confirmed as host for CHAN 2016, the list of applicants include Lee Johnson, the former Sierra Leone coach, and the federation is keen on solving the coaching dilemma that has engulfed the team. Ousted Rayon sports coach Andy Manglong Futira is in the running for the job, and so is former Sierra Leone coach John McKinstry, who guided the West African nation to their highest FIFA ranking last year. Afghanistan never recovered from a horror start as Bangladesh overpowered the World Cup newcomers by 105 runs at Canberra's Manuka Oval on Wednesday. The Afghans marked their World Cup debut by holding Bangladesh to 267 all out after losing the toss, but crumbled to 3-4-3 in the opening 3 overs of their reply. Their chaotic start with a bat meant Afghanistan were never likely to repeat their win over Test nation Bangladesh at last year's Asia Cup one-day tournament. Bangladesh, cheered on by their passionate fans, must now beat at least one of the big 4 in Pool A, co-host Australia and New Zealand, Sri Lanka and England, and also win against Scotland to keep their quarter-final hopes alive. Even without a training ground, Esporo Basketball Club stayed on track to clinch their 6th consecutive title this year as the defending champions made no mistake against debutants IPRC South. Day 2 of the 2015 National Basketball League saw favourites and defending champions Esporo Basketball Club make the long trip to Rubavu to take on league debutants IPRC South. The university champions had put up an impressive performance in their preseason games, finishing 4th in the tournament, but narrowly losing out to last year's league runners-up, APR Basketball Club. But as often seen in their games since preseason, the youthful side tend to blow it away in the second half of matches, often letting it slip in the 3rd and 4th quarters. Esport coach Jean Bahofite commended the IPRC team for their aggressiveness that kept his team on their perils, though he felt the lack of a training ground for his side affected their performance.
Uyu mukino wari ukomeye kuko ikipe n'abana b'abasore birukanka bafite imbaraga ntabwo umukino watworoheye muri rusange. Uko mbisesengura bigaragara ko ikipe itoroshye kuko n'umukino wayo wa mbere yari yawutsinze. Ikindi cya kabiri cyerekeye ikipe ya Espoir nuko twari tumaze iminsi dufite ikibazo cy'ikibuga aho twakina kuri afiki hari ikibuga kirekire cyaka ubu cyari kimaze iminsi cyaragize ibibazo by'umuriro ariko nibwira ko icyumweru gitaye bizaba byakemutse ubwo natwe ingufu tuzazongeramo habaye ibice bibiri n'abajene bafite imbaraga n'ikipe nari imaze iminsi gato yararekeyeho gato ku mwitozo.
IPRC South tactician Didier Habineza commended his side's performance and said it can only get better as his team has not gelled yet.
Kugerageza gukora nka esprit ya equipe ukuvuga barara hamwe barigana bose biga mu mbere bose uko babona ukuvuga ni ikipe itanga ikizere byanze bikunze kuba turi hamwe na avantage kuri twebwe nacyo dukoresha twuba twakwitwara neza mu match yose akomeye.
65-79 win for the defending champions took them back to the top of the national championship and kept them in the #1 seeding spot for the playoffs. Arnold Quizera, Rise and Shine, Rwanda.
All right, Arnold. So Esport Basketball Clubs remains the big force when it comes to national basketball here.
Yeah, Esport, again, they continue their domination. It's surprising for a team that hasn't trained for a week, to go on and put up a convincing performance away from home against an IPRC South team. Most of the people may look at this IPRC South team as, a young team because most of them are first-year students.
Right.
And one would recommend the idea IPRC has, because IPRC has 2 teams in the National League right now this year as an institute. This is a polytechnic institute that was set up among the government's policies of TVET. Now, what this institute is doing is it's recruiting players who are interested in pursuing their academic career and were not able to go to mainstream to the likes of University of Rwanda or who can't afford to pay their fees. So it gets them on the scholarship, which is like the American system, athletics system. Most of these students, as their coach said, they play together, they stay together. I think that's why they're giving so many teams a hard time. They shocked APR in their first game of the season, who were runners-up last year.
Yeah, I remember you telling us about it last week.
Yeah, and this is a team that one would think the future national basketball team is going to come from. The crop of them are going to come from this IPRC team. Esport currently has the current crop of national basketball stars. When you look at of their 12-man squad, 8 of them are national team players. Espoir were expected to win this game comfortably. They struggled until the last 2 quarters. Again, I think IPRC, the lack of experience affected them in those final 2 quarters, as has happened in so many of their games in preseason tournaments. But I think this is a team that will grow on to mature. The National League has not been competitive over the past few seasons. Espoir have won 5 titles on a trot. They want to come in and win their 6th consecutive title. And the team which we expected to give them a hard time, APR, look like they have taken steps in the wrong direction. Again, when you look at the national title, Espoir are still favorites to go on.
Number
win,
6.
Yeah, win number 6.
All right, now, for so long, you're the man of the situation, so you know what I'm about to talk about. For so long, the national team has had to rely on Rwandans living abroad or foreigners coming and getting a citizenship, a Rwandan citizenship. Do you think with the crop of players we have now, whether it be Espoir, APR, or IPRC, both teams that in the national championship this year, do you believe that we can have a serious contending basketball team, a national team?
It depends on what you look at as serious contending, because when you look at around the region, when you look at Kenya and you look at Uganda and you look at Somalia, which is also a very good basketball nation, Rwanda's team is good enough to compete with these teams. But what we lack is a center. You know, traditionally, what we will call a DeMarcus Cousins or a Tim Duncan in the NBA.
Right?
Yeah, we'd lack someone who's
size and muscle.
Size and is muscular and is good on the ball. Because the women's team has that kind of person, but then she lacks the skill with the ball. When you look at the men's team, it really lacks a big man, and that's a field in which we've struggled. We lack the physique. That's why we have gone on to have very close games. Our best players still are the likes of Bradley Cameron, are all foreign best players, and they won't be allowed to play for the national team again, going by the new rules. Last year, Espoir struggled when it had only locally best players, went to the SECAFA Championships, the Central and East African Basketball Association Championships, SECABA. And now, this year, I don't think our results will change that much, but if they can groom a team for the next 2-3 years, Rwanda is going to continue to struggle against the likes of Philip Omondi, who are the big men in the region. You know, when you look at the Ivan Enabus, when you look at this Ugandan gentleman, Norman Blake, those are very big, astute players who have played at the highest level for a very long time, which we don't have with our Rwandan players. So with the Rwandan team, I think we are going to continue to struggle in the region for about 1-2 years, and maybe a miracle can get us a good result in this year's Zone 5 Division Championships.
Now, speaking of miracles, when you look at the football side of our sports here locally, the national team, we have over 50 candidates for the vacant coaching job. What do you think is going to happen?
There's a lot of quantity, but the question is, do we have
enough
quality enough within that? Because when you look at the people earmarked for the job, Andy Manglong-Futira doesn't have a good enough CV, according to me, to take on the national team right now, going by his results with Rayon Sport. He was coached from November to January. 9 matches, no win. You know, maybe you feel they didn't give him enough time. Maybe Rayon Sports used him as an excuse because they didn't have the finances. But his stint with Democratic Republic of Congo was semi-impressive. He had about 13 matches with them, winning 8 of them, which is a good record for a traditional West African powerhouse like the Democratic Republic of Congo. He handled their under-23 team very well. But the man being looked at is Lee McKinstry, if I get the name right, the man from Sierra Leone, that man on our TV screens right there. He has had
propelled the team to number 50 on the FIFA rankings.
Yeah, FIFA rankings. Sierra Leone played very well, but when you look at where we had the kind of coach we had, Stefan Constantine, it's one, why did we let him go? Couldn't we fit $20,000 if it was being given to Mitchell, who wasn't giving us those kind of results? But again, I think we can still take our time and look for other coaches within Africa. You look at someone like Stuart Baxter, the current coach of Kaizer Chiefs in South Africa. He is a good enough coach. Can't we get Didier Gomez, who has had enough experience, the current coach of Cotton Sport in Cameroon? I think he's a coach who can handle our national team, being that he has been in Rwanda for a good period of time. Ferafa are in a rush.
Now, there's a conflicting way to look at it. I'm pretty sure you've talked about this on the show before. I'm pretty sure I've maybe asked you this question before. But when you look at Ivory Coast winning the African Cup of Nations about a week ago, and you look at the coach, he's the same one that carried Zambia to the top of Africa a couple of years ago. So he's won the African Cup of Nations twice with two different national squads. Now, some will say that shows you that maybe you need an expat. You need someone coming from Europe, from South America, a technician from there to actually come and coach your squad. But at the same time, you have the Stephen Keshis that have been coaching their national teams, and they're not having bad results either. So towards where would you lean?
When you look at the Europe, what you would call European coaches that have succeeded on the African continent, you will call them European by their skin color, definitely. But when you look at the time they have spent on the African continent to understand African football and get the results they have gotten, Harvey Renard has been on the African continent for more than 10 years.
He's like Claude Leroy.
Claude Leroy. Remember Bruno Mesu at
Absolutely.
Senegal? He had spent enough time in Africa making them look like local coaches. Mitchell, the current coach of the Uganda Cranes, has spent more than 2 decades on the African continent. Yeah, Stuart Baxter, the man I talked about earlier, who's the current coach of Kaizer Chiefs, he has been here for a very long time. So when you look at the successful European coaches, Avram Grant was going to be one of a kind to go on and win it with Ghana, and he still didn't do that with the Ghanaian team. And when you look at that Ghanaian team, it's a crop of the under-17 team that went to Mexico with our under-17 crop of players. So they built a system. With the Ghanaian system, it can allow any coach to succeed because they have a system from the structures, which we don't have yet. We started the under-15 team, which maybe with a few years' time, we will build that system that allows any coach to flourish, a situation the likes of Bayern Munich have. You know, any coach can go into that system and flourish. When you look at Rwanda, I think a local coach is needed to groom this team. I think Eric should have been given a longer time to hold that team together. When you look at the current coach of Police, the current coach of Police, who was the former coach of AS Kigali, he had very good results, and he's still putting up very good results. We brought in Sam Simbwa from Uganda for Police FC. He struggled with the team.
How about locally in Africa? I mean, we know people with expertise, the Sami Kufurs, the Kalusha Bwalias, the Roger Mila, and you know, the Mustafa Hadjis. We have a lot of people here in Africa that have shown that they know football.
Yeah.
But can they go on and coach teams? Like we have the Zidans in Europe and we have all these other players.
Are they willing to risk to take on
That's my question.
the Rwandan team? The Rwandan team, when you look at Ferwafa, it has a lot of politics in it, that the coaches are not given full mandate. Because it's very hard for a coach to work under a technical director, you know, because the technical directors usually interfere with their day-to-day coaching, and that's what
they usually clash.
Yes, and that's, I think you saw that situation with Jose Mourinho and Avram Grant at Chelsea. We saw it with Fabio Capello, also at Juventus a few years ago. So Rwanda right now, I think we needed a coach who is a locally based national, you know, team coach. Eric is the best. Is the best when you look at the CV. He has the best CV to take on the national team. But are they willing to take those risks again with him? How many local coaches have applied for the national team coach? Ferwafa hasn't told us that yet.
Especially when you know we're hosting Chan next year.
When we are hosting Chan, it will be nice for it to be all Rwanda out there come to Chan 2016. But then so many questions again, you know, coming with the Chan. Are our stadiums ready enough to take on Africa's biggest global competition?
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Arnold Quizer, thank you very much. That was a lengthy chat, a worthy chat, I think.
Thank you very much.
All right. You're watching Rise and Shine Rwanda. Makena and I will be right back after the break.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. Let's take a look now at news-making headlines here in Rwanda and around the world.
The National Correctional Service has committed to use biogas in all correctional facilities as an alternative energy source. This came after officials launched a biogas plant at Gisenyi prison in the Rubavu district aimed at cutting down firewood expenses and help protect the environment. The facility is expected to assist the prison authorities in saving at least 200,000 Rwandan francs daily. The shift to biogas now covers 12 correctional facilities across the country, which has significantly reduced the quantity of firewood used.
Rwandan and Ugandan police forces have committed to revisiting bilateral initiatives to tackle cross-border crimes. The forces reaffirmed their commitment during a meeting which was aimed at strengthening cooperation between the two. The meeting was also intended to review the implementation of previous resolutions and lay further strategies against cross-border security challenges such as deportation and extradition of fugitives in either country and trafficking of narcotic drugs.
The districts of Nyamagabe and Rutsiro are set to receive a $1.9 million package from the Swiss Agency for Development and Cooperation. The One UN Joint Nutrition Program pledged the fund to be used to purchase more than 1,000 metric tons of fortified blended food to prevent stunting and reduce malnutrition in over 15,000 children under the age of 2. It will also benefit pregnant and breastfeeding women. The program is hoped to address the persistent issue of severe malnutrition in the country.
Members of the East African Legislative Assembly have urged agencies not to delay in implementing Phase 2 of the Lake Victoria Water Supply and Sanitation Program. The legislators were in Kayonza district for an assessment of the project that is expected to set up facilities such as water drainage, waste disposal sites, public toilets, and water supply. The visit was intended to update them on the program's progress and challenges to facilitate its smooth and sustainable implementation. The program's activities are being undertaken in Kayonza, Nyagatare, and Nyanza districts.
And in international news, Nigeria's former president Olusegun Obasanjo has left the ruling People's Democratic Party ahead of the March 28 elections. Mr. Obasanjo has been critical of President Goodluck Jonathan, who's seeking re-election on a PDP ticket and facing a strong challenge from opposition candidate Muhammadu Buhari. The elections, which were originally slated for February 14th, were postponed due to security concerns. His decision is a major blow to the PDP, showing the divisions that have hit the party. The former president is a founding member and led it to 2 resounding victories after military rule ended in 1999.
Okay, lots more still to come. Lifestyle is up next. Plus, we take a look at what's hot right now in our daily debate section, Hot Topics. We'll be right back.
It's the month of love. Buy tickets this February with Rwanda and stand a chance to get in a lucky draw for a romantic getaway in Mombasa. 3 lucky couples stand a chance to win an all-expense paid holiday for 3 days and 2 nights at the White Sands Beach Resort and Spa. Yes, we are connecting dreams.
Fly our dream to the heart of Africa.
Welcome back to Rise and Shine Rwanda. It's time for Lifestyle. Alan, what do you have for us today? I think I know.
It's the movie review.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
All right, so the first movie is actually coming out tomorrow. Let's first check out. I'll just say it's starring Jennifer Aniston, but I'll let you guys see the trailer and then we'll talk more about it.
I made a list, and then I checked on the internet to see if they were different in Mexico.
This is a lot. Trying to sedate the small city? I think you have big problems.
Perceptivo. How's it going? I'm doing really well.
I want you to verbalize to Nina how her suicide affected you.
She jumped off the freeway overpass, landed on a flatbed truck heading to Mexico. Her body got stuck in customs for like a week before Nina's husband could even claim it. Way to go, Nina.
Spread your legs a little bit wider.
Should we go on a date first?
Haha.
Listen, you think I could come by and pick up the rest of my stuff? I think it's prudent if we don't see each other.
Nice night, huh? I came here for Nina's address.
I can't give you that information.
I actually brought you a really nice bottle of vodka.
What kind?
Nina's husband. I'm not a stalker. I mean, not in the traditional sense.
You know, you just could have said you wanted to come over.
Yeah, but what's the fun in that? Oh, hey.
What are you doing? He doesn't even like you.
What about your accident? I can't save you. I could barely save myself and my kid.
I'm not asking you to.
All right, so that was Cake. It's a dark comedy drama about a woman who suffers from chronic pain, grief, separation. She's also battling suicide and has a pill addiction. She's got everything that's just not going well for her. And you basically see what's happening in her life. And I don't want to give too much away, but it's basically the kind of movie you watch and you're like, wow, I have a good life. I have a good life. Right. Watching her, it's like she's really. Now, I must say, the movie hasn't got very good reviews. The reason being is that a lot of people really associate Jennifer Aniston to, the comedy type movies, very happy and very funny.
Are they saying she didn't have a good performance?
They're just saying she's trying, but it's just they're not convinced.
She's also had some good roles where she's not funny, but she's like in thrillers and such. She's been great.
Definitely, but I think because this one is one of those like really heavy movies,
right?
So people are just saying it's just not really the kind of, one article was saying that this is something you'd see someone like Charlize Theron versus, someone like...
Wasn't she nominated for a Golden Globe for this movie?
No, she wasn't. This is a movie that's just coming out.
God is talking to me in my ear and he's telling me she was.
Really? Then I missed that. Unless you guys, I definitely didn't see that, but it's possible.
Well, I guess we're just going to have to see for ourselves.
Absolutely. I mean, hey, if you like dark comedy, it's definitely a movie
It looks more like a Meryl Streep kind of role where you're like, it's all dark.
Let's just clear something up, all right? Every role is a Meryl Streep
kind of role. There's nothing she can't. She can even be a rapper and she'd kill it.
She'll kill it.
She'll kill it.
All right, let's go on to the next movie. Now, this one came out last week. It's actually a Bollywood movie. Let's check it out. Just take it out.
$120 million.
दोनों के?
एक के.
गन्स पार्ट 1 और 2 के मशहूर डायरेक्टर कबीर ग्रेवाल जो अक्सर अपनी लव लाइफ को लेकर सुर्खियों में पाए गए हैं, इस बार उनकी नई फिल्म के साथ ही उनका नया लव अफेयर भी शुरू हो गया है।
कैसी है वो? बिल्कुल पागल है मेरी तरह।
रूड, obnoxious, arrogant।
मैं अपने आप को इंट्रोड्यूस ही करने वाला था।
तुमने अब तक बताया नहीं कि तुम यहाँ क्या कर रही हो।
टूरिस्ट।
मतलबी हो जा जरा मतलबी।
जाना तो कहीं और था, तो यहाँ पहुँच गई।
बहुत अजीब हो तुम।
तुम्हारी तरह ही हो।
सूरज डूबा है यारो दो घुट नशे के मारो रास्ते भुला दो सारे घर बार के।
All right. Well, that was Roy.
That's
I gotta say, the one of the things I loved when I saw this movie is that it has this Hollywood feel to it. It's not the typical Hollywood.
Right, I couldn't tell it was a Bollywood movie until I remembered that you mentioned it was.
It's definitely one of those movies. So it's a movie about a movie director who is known to be a playboy, and then somehow he falls in love with this young lady, and everyone's wondering whether he's going to keep her or if it's just another lady that is for the week, or So it's a movie that you watch and you're like, this is actually a really interesting Bollywood movie. I personally don't usually watch Bollywood movies, but I think this is one of the movies I could actually recommend.
I mean, the trailer looks really, really
It's
fun.
good.
I have questions like, how many beautiful girls can you have in one movie?
You know what? They win a lot of pageants in India, right? So
Well, there you go.
They do have those beautiful women.
I mean, I don't think, I'm not sure if I've ever watched a Bollywood movie in, the whole thing in full. But this one seems interesting. I mean,
Honestly,
it seems cool.
If you want to try something different than just watching Hollywood movies, why not? Check it out.
All right, it's that time of the day.
That's right. Okay, it's time to watch the cult classic.
Right.
Let's take a look.
What is the Matrix? It is the world that has been pulled over your eyes to blind you from the truth. You are a slave born into a prison for your mind.
The Matrix is a system, Neo. That system is our enemy.
Try to realize the truth.
What truth?
There is no spoon.
Human beings are a disease, a cancer of this planet. You are a plague, and we are the cure.
So you're here to save the world.
I'm trying to free your mind, Neo, but I can only show you the door. You're the one that has to walk through. It seems that you've been living two lives. I've seen an agent punch through a concrete wall. Men have emptied entire clips of them and hit nothing but air. Everyone who has fought an agent has died. But where they have failed, you will succeed.
So what do you need? Guns.
Lots of guns.
No one has ever done. The movie was so good.
Wasn't it good?
Talk about the role of a lifetime, right? Keanu Reeves forever.
No, that movie. Well, there was also Speed, but this definitely took it to another level.
You can go. I mean, you can think about Sandra Bullock. Is she?
Yes, Sandra Bullock.
Me,
Yes.
I have no idea.
But you can't tell. Like this one, I mean, this is what made Keanu Reeves who he is
Absolutely.
today.
It's what made him like an international superstar.
Right.
Because this movie actually came out back in 1999. It's crazy when you think how
It's
far.
unbelievable. 16 years.
Yeah, 16 years. So this movie, for those who don't know, is basically a movie where, they live in this cyber world. And he basically finds out that they're being controlled by these agents. And so he is, I guess, the chosen one, the one who's going to free the people. And, it's a great movie. There's actually 3 of them that came out. And this was the first one. And it had amazing, effects? What do you call it?
Effects?
Special effects. Thank you. It had amazing special effects. In fact, it was one of the most expensive movies made.
Right.
And, one of the things I remember watching behind the scenes of the movie was that they actually built a highway just for that movie. There was there's one scene in the movie, without me giving anything away, where there's like a fight scene, with cars and stuff. And they built that highway just for that movie. So it was just an amazing movie.
And it doesn't hurt that Monica Bellucci
was in that movie,
I
right?
mean, all right, talk about whatever you guys want to talk about. I'm good here.
That was definitely a classic.
It's totally a classic, and I totally recommend. If you haven't seen it, go check it. I'd
You
watch
have
it
good
again.
ones. Every Thursday, there's a punch. You think you've seen them all, and
I'm telling you. I'm already excited for next week's Cult Classic.
Absolutely. Okay, cool. Well, just before we wrap up, every week, as always, I give out free movie tickets to check out the latest movie playing in theaters. So for this week, all you have to do is tell us, what is the name of Keanu Reeves' character? Is it A, Morpheus, B, Trinity, or C, Neo? Email, tweet, or Facebook us the answer, and the first person to send us the response will win movie tickets. Again, the question is, what is the name of Keanu Reeves' character? A, Morpheus, B, Trinity, or C, Neo? All right, stay tuned. Hot Topics is coming right up. Welcome back. It's that hot topics time again. As always, you can join in on the debates through our social media, whether it's on Facebook or on Twitter. We'd love to hear your opinions. All right, let's get into our first hot topic. This is more of a sports-related one. So as you guys know, last year, or should I say last month, there was the Amavubi head coach, the Englishman, his name is Stephen Constantine, resigned. I was just trying to make sure, like Constantine. So he recently resigned, so right now there was an opening, for the job. And 50 people from around the world applied for the job. And right now, so apparently by the end of the month, they're going to shortlist. And by March 15th, they're going to actually announce the coach who is going to be the head coach of Amavubi. But what I'm more interested to know is why the local coaches have decided not to apply. According to the article I read, some of the top local coaches like the AS coach Eric Nshimimana, Andre Kasa of Police FC, and interim coach Vincent Mashami all decided not to apply. Do you know why they would do that? Let's ask the sport experts.
I think it's a discussion we've had with Regis earlier in the show. It's when Ferraf was coming out, when you look at all these coaches' credentials, Eric has the highest credentials among all these coaches, but they have not been motivated enough to take up that job. When you look at the foreign coaches, the way they are, because when Coach Eric was the national team coach, he was getting a meager about $3,000 a month. Then you have a foreign coach coming in to get $20,000. I think they feel very underrated, and Ferrafa has showed that. And through statements, we had the Ferrafa spokesman on this show say they can't go court. They can't go in for a locally based coach. And that shows they don't have confidence in them. When you look around the African continent, even coaches you would call European coaches who are succeeding on the African continent are actually only European by skin, because they've spent more than 10, 15 years on the African continent, meaning they've studied the football down here. And I think our coaches are good enough to take up the likes of Andra Kasambugo at Police. He is a wonderful tactician. I think he should be groomed to take on Amavubi in the future.
And it goes against everything Rwanda stands for. I mean, if you remember the press conference the president had, where he was kind of making fun, like lightly of what was going on. But at the same time, you remember Minister Joe Habineza is always talking about how we need to groom our own, how having Congolese come and play for us is not going to be the answer and all that. And they end up getting caught in these scandals anyway. So we need to groom our own. We need to have our own, and our own coaches need to coach our own players.
I think it all just has to go down to, does Ferrafa have a long-term plan of bringing these coaches on board? And, like the football, the French and the English have done it with their systems. They groom coaches from, as soon as a player retires, he is groomed into a coach. Why don't you groom Olivier Karekezi, Jimmy Gatete? These were the heroes in 2001, in 2002 for the Nations Cup. Groom them into future coaches. They have not done that, and that's why we keep panicking and bringing all these foreign coaches.
And that's me and Makeda just know. We agree. Yeah, foreign, no, local, no. Amavubi, what? Yes.
I think Makeda is still in the movie review.
He's still in the Matrix.
Yeah. Okay, next topic, please.
Are we going to talk about Keanu Reeves?
Save us.
All right, so on to the next hot topic. I think this one will be more interesting. All right, so there's a young woman who's being charged in Kenya, in Nairobi specifically, because she was not able to settle a bill when she basically went to a hotel, the Intercontinental Hotel, which is a 5-star hotel in Nairobi, and she basically racked up a bill of about 229,505 shillings, which is the equivalent of $2,500.
Okay.
Now, this woman was apparently celebrating Valentine's. And she
said the equivalent of 20,000. God just spoke to me.
20,000. When I Googled, it said 2,500. So check your facts.
God just told me there is no way.
Moving on to this, I'm enjoying this story.
Right, but anyway, as I was saying,
it was a lot of money that she couldn't afford.
It was basically a lot of money she couldn't afford. Now she said what she said was that her lover duped her, told her to go to the hotel and he was going to pay for everything, and I guess ended up not showing up and not paying the bill. And now she owes all this money, but at the same time she's saying, it's not my fault, you know, blah,
But
blah,
still,
blah.
like I don't think that's the reason. And it's crazy because it happens a
What
lot,
do you mean?
even not just in Kenya, because it happens here in Rwanda too, where
What, that
you know,
women go to hotels
no,
and can't
not
afford to pay
hotels,
their
but
bills?
like you have like plans to meet up with someone, not even just for hotels, even for local like
She spent
dinners.
a week in 3 days.
Like a no, her she just
Arnold is gonna
she's
get
on,
even more
she's on
interested in
another
this
level.
story.
She's on another level. But generally, I just think
But
we
don't
need
you have to
stay
leave
up-
a credit
stay-
card?
No, you know what? Apparently, she somehow convinced them that she can pay the bill, and
How?
they let her stay in the
looks
hotel.
Yo,
You know, and maybe it's the way she came in, the way she was
Right.
dressed. Sometimes,
And
you
maybe
know,
the confidence
matter.
from being
The
told that
confidence.
someone is going to pay the bill.
This is a business that you're running. You're not here to like.
you know what? What if she
Fidelis,
came in
I go to my local bar. When I don't have money, there are these moments.
Your local bar knows
Yes.
you, number one.
They know where you
Your
live.
local bar is not intercontinental.
five-star hotel?
Maybe the person at
Maybe
the
she
reception
looks,
knew
maybe she
them.
looks rich.
She
No.
probably looked rich, not in this picture, but
Oh my goodness.
I'm just saying, she probably looked rich.
Oh, boy.
No, generally, lesson learned for all of you ladies out there. Just don't
Don't go
go
to no
dates.
hotel
Don't
if
go
you know
meet
you can't
nobody if you
afford.
So
can't
guys,
afford it.
can go to dates and whatever happens.
No, just have
You
a
said for
backup
only
plan just in
ladies,
case they
Plan
don't pay
B.
the bill.
Don't wait a week and 3 days. for
Exactly.
goodness sake.
Oh, she was there a week and 3
And
days.
3 days.
That's why it
insane.
amounted to that much. It cannot amount to that much in one day.
2,500.
Well, at least she had a
Yeah.
blast. So in
When
case
I
in
was
case
young, there
in
was
case
this
anything happens, so
cartoon.
she has to go to jail
Yeah,
or
but now
something.
she's going to
She can
jail.
like review her moments.
When
and-
she's sitting in her jail
Yeah.
cell, she can
And
remember the
enjoy
day
the
she
moment.
stayed in
Yeah,
the hotel.
yeah. It's unfortunate if that really is the case, but that does sound a bit fishy.
It does. I mean, for me, the way I see it is,
I
it's
was
one of
defending
those-
her because I thought it was just that
A night.
crazy weekend you people like so much.
Think she moved in?
A week. Yo.
You're pushing it, right?
A week.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, on to the next one. This is also another shady story, but this.
What's with you today?
You know what? I just thought, you know what? I like crazy stories too. So this happened in India. There was recently a traditional Indian wedding where a young couple, it was a 25-year-old and a 23-year-old, who were basically in the ceremony of a traditional Hindu wedding when the groom actually had an epileptic attack.
Oh no.
And as they were actually exchanging garlands, which is like the flower thing,
Yeah.
Right.
it's similar to exchanging basically rings.
Uh-huh.
So when he collapsed and went to this attack, she got really upset because apparently the family was not notified that he had epilepsy. And so when
But
he
they thought
was,
he was scared.
yeah, so when he was taken to the hospital, she decided to marry one of the guests in the wedding, who happened to be the sister's brother-in-law. So when the
sister's
brother-in-law, yeah,
And
so
he said yes.
they got married.
Clearly
They
they had
got
this
married.
planned.
No,
and
but
they-
listen to
Yo.
this. So the groom comes back from the hospital. The groom comes back from the hospital to the ceremony to only find the wife was married to someone else, and so a big
Are
fight
you sure this is
ensues.
an Indian wedding or is it like a Nollywood movie?
No, seriously, this has actually happened in India. So a big fight ensued. You can imagine, you know, the supposed future husband comes back, and the woman quickly found someone else.
And not just
a guest.
someone else, not just anyone.
The sister's brother-in-law.
It's someone who's in the family.
Yes. And so it just created a big problem, and you know, people started fighting in the wedding, and eventually the woman said, "No, I'm not marrying a guy who has epilepsy." Isn't that just shady?
Well, I feel bad for the guy.
To do or to whatever, to love you till death.
Exactly. So
Those-
much for through unconditional,
It's
through
like
sickness
until
and health.
epilepsy doesn't support, then.
Yeah,
So
but
basically,
Well,
all of this is health.
at least this happened before they were done with the ceremony. Imagine
Right.
like after the wedding and then
Do you know how expensive Indian weddings are?
she like
They
dishes.
really
And
are.
Well,
the other
somebody
problem
on the
is that
girl's
most
side,
of
right?
these Indian weddings are, is it their planned marriages?
They are.
Most
That's
of them are
that's what
planned
upset her.
marriages.
That the family did not notify her family that their son had epilepsy.
And she was like, I'm getting married
She's
today.
like, you,
Oh yeah, because if
you
they
in the
have
front.
dating, then they'll
Yeah.
slow me here.
That's so
Yeah.
sad.
Was
So-
it on 14th again?
This was
You just want to hate on Valentine's Day generally.
no, but you know what? For me, the way I see it, it's like at least she could have waited, not just right away. Like, you know what? We're doing a wedding
That was
anyway.
just harsh.
Let me just pick a guest
That's
and let's
just
get
harsh.
married. Let's just do this.
No feelings, nothing. Well, here on Rise and Shine Rwanda, we do have feelings. We care about what you think of the show, so we'd like to know what you think. What's your feedback on the show on Rise and Shine Rwanda? Tweet us at Rise and Shine RW. Like us on Facebook and send us your ideas for programs. Check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda YouTube page where you can catch all the shows and the reports we do. Find us on Instagram, Rise and Shine RW. We'd love to see your pictures. Or check out our Rise and Shine Rwanda website.
Well, that's all the time that we have for today's show, but don't forget that we love to hear your feedback, so please let us know if you have any ideas for the program. You've been watching Rise and Shine Rwanda with me, Makeda Mahario.
And me, Regis Isheja, will be here, same time, same place tomorrow morning, but for now, for the two of us and for the rest of this beautiful crew here, we're saying have a great day and see you tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Bye.